listening to Fighting Game Follies.
It's the #1 podcast for low-level player opinions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Round 1.
Hello, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Fighting Game Follies, a podcast where I, your host, Griefer Games, Games.png, whatever you want to call me, just goes about and rambles on like all of the things that I really care about in fighting games and just like all of the stuff that I myself find enjoyable. Talk about things like players, like other games, why like some things happened, why other things happened, and just like overall anything that I really like want to touch on. Uh, with all that being said, I suggest we probably should get straight into it and talk about the first topic that we have here, which is obviously, just getting all of the introductions and everything out of the way. Let me formally introduce you to myself and just sort of set the baseline for how this podcast is going to go. So first off, I feel like we should talk about just the general things that there is to go over. Like I said, my name is Dallas, otherwise known as Griefer Games, Games.png, whatever you want to call me. I've had a lot of tags over the years. If somebody can dig any of them up, then by all means. Then if you can somehow find one of my older tags from middle school, Disturbed Soul 67, then if you want to call me that, then by all means, then sure. But in this point in time right now, I'm sort of switching between Griefer Games and Games.png. Obviously, Games.png being a shortening of Griefer Games. There's some history into that name as well because it also sort of stems from one of my old middle school friends. But we can get into that another episode, because that's not really for now. Uh, how I got into fighting games is kind of funny, cause I eventually started back in the PlayStation 2 era with Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Online. And however old I was, me being the kid that I am, or that I was at that time, I didn't know what I was really doing. I was just mashing buttons, sort of just doing whatever. But there's just something there that felt good about it, playing the other kids that I was playing against at the time. So I sort of from that point forward, I sort of was like, oh, this is cool. I want to play more games like these, and I eventually I just did. I started. It started back in Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Online, like I said. And then around that time, I was also at the it's kind of weird because I started playing uh Third Strike, and then from Third Strike I went to playing Smash Brawl, and then right around where the start of Smash 4 was, oh, I also forgot to mention that I also played Street Fighter 4. I didn't really like it all too much, but I still did play it. But more importantly, I started playing Smash 4, and I played Smash 4 competitively. And then around this time as well, I also Smash 4. Smash was the game that I sort of found my competitive roots in the best. But around this time, I was also experimenting a tiny bit more with other fighting games. So more anime fighters basically. So things that were being published by Arc System Works. And if you don't know Arc System Works, they're the leading guys in anime fighters. Your Blaze Blues, your Guilty Gears, things of that sort. So I'm playing Blaze Blue because one of my teachers in middle school, he actually introduced the series to me. I'm playing Blaze Blue, I'm playing Guilty Gear, I'm playing Smash 4, and then I'm enjoying all of these games. All of that happens. I'm playing some more, of Smash 4 all the way up until Smash Ultimate, where I play the game competitively, some more, and then I stop playing Smash altogether. Like, because Ultimate right now, the point that it's at, I feel like or the point that I dropped it at, I was like, all right, yeah, I feel like I've sort of outgrown this. Even though it is a big part of my fighting game identity, I feel like I did outgrow that phase, and I'm ready to sort of play more, not adult fighting games, but I feel like I want to expand more and play other fighting games, and which is what I'm sort of starting to do right now. Like, I'm waiting for Street Fighter 6 to come out because obviously everyone and their grandmother is going to play that. Um, I played Street Fighter 5 for a bit, at launch. That was a nightmare. Dropped it. I didn't really enjoy SF5 because for outside of like all of the reasons why everybody else didn't enjoy it at launch, I also just like found out that I'm not really a fan of six button fighters, which is something I'm most likely going to get into in a later installment of Fighting Game Follies. Like, but just for retrospect, I'm not really a fan of. I enjoy more 4 to 5 button fighters, so like Strive, Blaze Blue, BB Tag, like things of that nature. And right now, like the game of choice that I'm currently playing, like my main game that I'm playing right now is Guilty Gear Strive, and I've been playing that since launch. I've been enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. I'm sort of dying down a bit, taking a break because of all of the other things that I'm doing in my life right now. Like I want to focus on work, school, university. I am a university student, but for right that is my main game until something else that is appealing to me and I feel like I'm going to like really enjoy playing it comes out. So that's sort of how I got started into fighting games. So like a quick little rundown of how I got started into fighting games, which funnily enough was also the same time that I got like introduced to anime as well, or rather like that same not that same day, but it was in the same space that I also got introduced to anime, but that's not really what the podcast is about now. So yeah, that's all that there really is to know about me in terms of my journey in fighting games and like just overall how I started, what made me do the things that I wanted to do, and sort of where it's looking like I'm going to be heading from now on.
Round two.
Now, after telling you guys how long I've been playing fighting games for and just my overall history with them, you're probably wondering, oh, what's your play style? How long, like, what do you normally look for in a character? How do you normally play games, etc., etc.? Well, right, basically how I go about it, and this is I'm going to try and say this to in a manner for like non-fighting game people so that they can understand this as well because ultimately I'm going to get into this in like the next segment, but like ultimately I do want this to be a podcast where like if you don't know what's happening in fighting games, you can come in, I'll explain some things, like you can understand the terminology and everything. Obviously not to the degree of like a dedicated YouTube video or whatnot, but like if you want to like learn at least a tiny bit and like dip your foot into it, then like I want to be that sort of space for it. But I'll get into that later. To put this in a manner that like most people would be able to understand, let's say that like your basic like character, the one that like you start off with, is like the flavor of just white bread. And all of the different characters that you play all have different like flavors, textures, and like little additives to said bread, but ultimately it's still bread, right? Uh, I like my bread to be relatively white with like little dashes of hints of like other things that I put on myself. Now, to translate that back into fighting game terms, right? I most likely, or like in a game, I will most likely play a Shoto character, which bringing it back is that white bread. It's the character that like the game will more often and not start you off with. It's the like character that you see on the box, the main guy, the dude that they're there to sell the thing, right? I am most likely to play a Shoto character, but have a very rushdown oriented style with that. Basically, what rushdown is like I'm basically constantly putting pressure onto my opponent. I'm making sure that they're not able to do the things that they want to do, set up the stuff that they want to set up. I'm basically just 24/7 in their face nonstop. That's what rushdown means. So, to give a example, actually, no, no, no. I was about to um make an example of Street Fighter 5, but that's actually not really a good example because the character that I play in Street Fighter 5, being Laura, she is a rushdown grappler. And obviously, like grappler, it's in the name. I grab people. Like, despite me not really liking grapplers all too much, like I will play a rushdown grappler. But I digress. I'm like tangent, getting off topic. Um, in Guilty Gear Strive, right? Because that's the game that I said earlier. That's what I'm currently playing right now. That's what I'm putting all of my focus into. I play two characters in Strive, and one of those characters is Remethal Valentine, who is very like unconventional. She has like big moves and everything that like hit you from really far away. We're not gonna talk about that. But the only other character that I play, and this is also the character that I played Guilty Gear X or Revelator X or 2, which, yeah, that name's dumb. The only other character that I played in Rev 2 was Kai Kisk. And Kai Kisk is probably as white bread and honest and Shoto like as you can possibly get. And what do I mean by Shoto like? I mean, he has the standard Shoto kit of projectile, some sort of advancing kick move, and a giant beam super. And honestly, people like to talk semantics about, oh, what defines a Shoto's like kit and everything. Those things right there, that right there for me does it. I feel like every Shoto has some sort of a projectile, an advancing kick move, and some sort of beam or like giant beam projectile thing. It doesn't matter if it goes like across the stage or if it goes up. It's a beam that is shot from whatever they want to use as their medium to shoot it. To give an example, Ryu, he has Tatsumaki Seppuken, or otherwise known as Tatsumaki, which is quarter circle forward back. And really quickly, just to explain like that, because I know for a fact I'm most likely going to like slip into my more advanced like FGC terms. Really quickly, when I speak in a manner of like, oh, quarter circle forward back, quarter circle forward, etc., etc. Imagine you are looking on a keypad, and that keypad goes from left to right in this order: one, two, three, up another row, back all the way down to the left, 4, 5, 6, up again to the left, 7, 8, 9. Meaning that one is on in this 3 by 3 row, one is on the bottom left corner, 9 is in the bottom right corner, 7 is in the upper left corner, and 3 is in the bottom right corner, and 5 is in the center. And that's basically how a joystick or like whatever you use for your controller is set up. If I say quarter circle forward, that means that I want to put my stick down two in the like positions of 2, 3, and 6, and then whatever button I want to press. Like that's a little tangent right there, but I did want to make that known because I feel as if I am going to slip and like accidentally say, oh well, if I do um like 4, 1, 2, and then whatever. And like I just want to let like set those seeds now, and that's basically called numpad notation. So uh learn that like that's something like very big in anime fighters, and it's overall just like a very good notation to know because I feel like it conveys information easier than like saying out the full move thing. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to say the full move thing. So back to what I was saying. Ryu, right? He has Tatsumaki Seppuken, which is quarter circle back and then kick, or like if we're taking it back to numpad notations, 214 kick. He has Hadouken, obviously, which is 236 punch, and he has like the giant beam Hadouken. I think Shindo Hadouken is what it's called, which normally is just two quarter circle forwards and then a punch. There's also one other thing that I forgot to mention as well, which is everyone's favorite fighting game input, which is the dragon input, otherwise known as Shoryu input, whatever you want to call it, Z motion, it doesn't matter. It's what defines like the boys from the men in a fighting game, and that is basically the input for that is 6, 2, 3, and then whatever it is. So a Shoto will have those four things basically: a projectile, an advancing kick move, a giant beam that they shoot throughout the entire like screen or whatever, and a dragon input, otherwise known as an invincible reversal. Those are the four key things for a Shoto character, and those are normally what I myself look for in a character when I'm playing them. To give even more examples, I said that I play Kai Keys from Guilty Gear Strive. He has a lot of those tools. Or actually, no, he has all of those tools. I play a tiny bit of Yunar Kami from Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. Like I said, he also has all of those tools. Uh, Hyde from Under Night Ember Late Control EX. He has those moves, but I only I ti Under Night is weird because that is the only game where I do not play the characters that I normally play. As in Under Night in Birth, and based like little history lesson, or not history lesson, but like little thing right here. Um, Under Night in Birth is a game that is basically, it was a part of a much larger game that I found myself playing called Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, otherwise known as BB Tag. And BB Tag is essentially the Arc System Works, which are the guys that make the fighting games. It was their equivalent to the Super Smash Bros. Series. So it had games like I said earlier, Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, the rest of the Blaze like things in the Blaze Blue series, the online show Ruby, which was a very weird last pick, and like I said under earlier, Under Night in Birth. And in under like its home series Under Night in Birth, I play um excuse me, a character named Carmine, who is a set play character. And set play, for those who don't know, it just means that I want to set up a bunch of stuff on the screen and make it hard for you to like do anything. And Phonon, which is a zoner, and as the name suggests, or as the archetypal name suggests, a zoner just means that I want to keep you out, leave you as far away from me as possible, and make sure that you're all the way over there. I can hit you from all the way over here while you can't hit me. That's basically what it is. I'm gonna eventually go more and more in depth into things as like the episodes and whatnot go on, especially since I don't want to spoil anything, but I have a episode in the future where I just talk about one archetype of fighting game characters that I really do not like playing against, or just playing in general. But that'll come when it eventually comes. So are, Eunice is weird, or Under Night in Birth is weird because that's the one, or one of the only other games that I can like really think of that I play outside of my like normal play style. But 9 times out of 9, I will most likely be playing a Shoto character, but playing them in a very rushdown oriented sense.
Round 3.
So now with things like my play style, what games I've been playing, and overall just like how involved I've been in the fighting game community, I think it's finally time to talk about the third and final thing that I'm going to be talking about in today's episode, and that's the question of why a fighting game podcast. Like it's already bad enough that podcasts are constantly being made by people like almost every day. Like obviously that's where the phrase like oh another podcast comes in. But the reason why I wanted to make a fighting game podcast, mean specifically, is I feel like as a large and encompassed community, there aren't really a whole lot of people, or like lower end people, that don't really get to speak about their opinions, which makes sense obviously, as like high tier players and like people that have been to the top and constantly stay at the top are going to be the ones that are like constantly being looked at. But I still feel like it would be best to not just only listen to the people at the top, but also get a grasp on what the guys down below are also talking about as well. Because they're like in the way that we have everything now, like in the age of social media, if I don't like something about a game, like if I feel like that like a move or something is unfair, yeah, I can go and tweet about it and like be like, oh, I think like da 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 is dumb and stupid and should be nerfed for X amount of reasons. Unless you're specifically talking to a top player, which that in and of itself is probably not gonna like that's gonna be hard. You won't really get any other response outside of like somebody that you know, or like someone just being like, "Oh, you're dumb," and then just like brushing it off, which I feel like we should have more of. Basically, I'm just like it's a long-winded way of me saying we should open up the conversation more to more people, specifically more people that might be on the lower like spectrum in terms of skill, but should still have a voice and be able to say something. And ultimately, the another reason why I sort of wanted to do this podcast is because I want another outlet to talk about fighting games. Like if you go on my YouTube channel, a lot of the like content that I do is fighting game oriented right now. Like I said, like I've already like reiterated, Guilty Gear Strive is the game that I'm focusing on for now. But I want another outlet so I can just like be like, oh, I like this game for X amount of reasons. I don't like this game for X amount of reasons. I think this player is cool. I don't really like this player. I like this character. I don't like this character, etc., etc. And I just sort of want to impart my own experiences onto the community in any way that I possibly can. Because there is, like I said earlier, there isn't really a whole lot of that. And I just like I like talking about fighting games. Like I like talking about the people that I'm able to like sit down and experience like fighting games with. Like for example, during the pandemic, I would not have gotten into like Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle if it wasn't for the pandemic. And because of that, I met so many like really great and wonderful and helpful people like during that time who were more than willing to teach me how to play the game, and I like eventually just made a community with them and just had some really solid, like I have some really solid friends. I have people that I still talk to from then that taught me like BB tag, and I still like try to talk to them on a regular basis. And I feel like that's something special that not a whole lot of people can really do. Like, yeah, sure, FPS game can have something like that. Like any social game can have like an aspect like that where you can meet people, but I feel like it's way more connected in a fighting game because it is literally only you and one other person that is playing and no other distractions really. And I feel like there's a beauty in that needs to be encompassed and just like talked about way more. Like the aspect of being able to just like with no distractions, with nothing whatsoever, like just you and one other person, like battle it out. I think that in and of itself is something that is beautiful and just needs to more of that needs to be shown and just talked about, especially like on the lower like tier spectrum of that as well, which is where I come in. But ultimately, I just want to make a podcast because I think it would be a cool idea, and I like the idea of talking about it to other people. So yeah, thank you all so much for sticking around to the first episode of the Fighting Game Follies. This is going to be a weekly series where I talk about a bunch of other things for like fighting game related. I still sort of want to. I have a few ideas floating around for what the series is going to like sort of turn into and like what next topics that I want to talk about. So that's going to be happening soon. But please be on the lookout for all of that. If you want to follow my socials and actually like see what I'm going to be talking about, then please by all means come over. My Twitter handle is if I can pull it up at Ziggy Skyward, Xenoblade3.png, which is like it's once again any name that you want to call me. I really don't care. Ziggy, Griffer Games, Games.png, but my at is at ZGIESKYWARD at twitter.com. And if you also want to follow me on YouTube and see the content that I'm doing there, then I more than implore you to come and check it out. Being my YouTube is games.png, otherwise known as Disturbed Soul 67. Just want to check it out, see everything, then like pop in. Like I might also stream on Twitch as well, but like don't don't worry, yo. Everything will be linked in the description of this if I can figure out how to do it correctly. Everything will be linked if you want to see it all. If you want to check out the socials and everything, then come over, see how we're doing, see how I'm doing, and I more than implore you to join the conversation yourself, because ultimately that's what I want to do. I want to open the conversation up to more people like that don't really have a platform and just have more people to talk about fighting games with. Unless you play grapplers, then I do not want to talk to you at all if you play grapplers. Please stay away from me if you play grapplers in any capacity, despite that being a hypocritical statement. Jokes aside, though, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for letting me like fill your ears with whatever like intro garbage that I've been doing for so long, and I will more than definitely see you all in the next episode of the Fighting Game Follies. This is Griefer Games, and I will see you all later.